March 11th, 2025. It's 7 o'clock. I'm going to start with roll call. Greg Cranford. Here. Matthew Fox.
Here.
Julia Weisenberg. Marcus Kasich.
Here.
David Austin.
Present.
Sean Davey.
Here.
Great. So first thing I'm going to do is, the last two planning board sessions obviously have had some weight to them, it's serious, but I think it's always good to have some levity, and I'm going to do that tonight by congratulating, having a little excitement here. We have 3 new members, 2 of whom are here this evening. So on my right, we have Greg Cranford, and on my left, we have Sean Davey. And I'm going to take 1 minute or less to just do some bragging rights on them. So David Kriegel, he's been an architect for 44 years, has a local, David's not here tonight, but he is now a full member of the planning board, so he'll be able to hear about himself later. So David's been an architect for 44 years. He has a local firm in Brooklyn. He's done a lot of work on school design and affordable housing. And one thing that stood out to us in his interview is that he talked a lot about that he believes in learning from past mistakes and encouraging responsible growth. Greg Cranford, who is here tonight, is also an architect. He has extensive background in urban design and mixed use projects. He's done a lot of US and international projects, quite large scale projects. So Greg brings some excellent architectural background to us. And then we have Sean, who is my neighbor and fellow Silver Beach Association board member. Sean's been in Silver Beach for 20 years. He's very active on the Silver Beach Association board. He's also participated as a board of trustee member of Mashamik. He's a retired financial services executive. And we're going to tap him for this. He's known for his excellent communication skills and trying to get parties to collaborate and find consensus. And lastly, we have 2 attorneys on tonight. We have our interim attorney, Tim Hill, along with Richard Whalen, who is going to be our new planning board attorney. And we're in good hands because Rich knows land use and zoning like the back of his hand. He was the deputy attorney for the town of East Hampton, and then he was the planning board attorney for a number of years in East Hampton. So welcome, Greg, Sean, and Rich.
All right.
All right.
It's going to be the town attorney.
We don't, town attorney, I don't know at this point. I think they're still doing interviews. Okay, so next order of business is we're going to review and approve the minutes from our February 11th, 2025 meeting. Did everyone who was present, Greg, I'm assuming you'll recuse on this because you weren't here, but everyone else have a chance to look at the meeting minutes? Anything stand out to you want to change or looks good to you, or?
Fine, no, they're accurate.
So I'll need a motion then to approve those minutes from February 11th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right. Next on the agenda, we have to pay out some bills. One is for Joe, our engineer from the Rayner Group. I do want to note that on the bills that you saw on SharePoint, they are conflated. So there was, each of the persons who was now billing us had a number of services both for the town and in some cases ZBA and us. I double checked just the math to make sure that those were parsed out just for us. So the numbers you see are only for the planning board work. In Joe's case, it was mostly work on Cheekwood Avenue, the King preliminary hearing that we had, Crescent Beach LOC, Row subdivision, which is a new one that we're working on, and that was the bulk of his invoices. And then for Tim Hill from Perillo and Hill, we have a $1,530 bill. That was for our attorney being present here at meetings, some conferences and such. And again, Joe also for the above applications and for his presence. And then the third one, which is only $187.50, that is from our environmental consultant, Teresa Mason. And that was only for Cheekwood Avenue LLC, because that's the only, that's her capacity right now for us. So I need a motion then to accept the Rayner Groups, the Perillo Hill, and Teresa Mason's Hampton Environmental Land Planning.
You can do them all at once?
I stated the
Okay.
amount, so yeah, I'm gonna,
I'll still make a motion to approve.
can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now I am going to note, we did receive some correspondence. I'm just going to state for the record what those correspondences were and the dates. However, these correspondences pertain to an application which is going to be adjourned to our April meeting, but I just do want to state publicly what those things were that we received or that our clerk received. We received on March 4th, the CAC memo on 7 Cheekwood Avenue, and that was based on their meeting and discussion of 3/4/25. On March 5th, we also received Nicholas Andrianas, who is the engineer for the Shelter on Heights Property Owners Corp., and they submitted a letter objecting to components of Sherman's submission of February 13th, 2025. We received an emailed letter from Pam Demarest that was also in opposition to the application 7 Cheekwood Avenue. And lastly, we received a letter in opposition to the same application by Estella from the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corp. Okay, so those were four things that we received in the time that we had our last meeting and now. All right, next order of business, we're going to act on the 2 extensions. So one was the Elliott Bousman lot line.
Madam Chairwoman, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I wasn't sure you
Yes.
were done. My name is Glenn Gruder. I'm counsel to Cheekwood. We did review the agenda and we saw it was adjourned, but we don't know why it was adjourned. And since this application's been going on, not for months, for years, we would respectfully request some explanation why it was adjourned when everything was submitted. And I know Mr. Sherman was surprised yesterday that there was an issue and he immediately turned around and addressed the issue. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but if we could have a reason why it was adjourned, we would greatly appreciate that.
Yes, Glenn, I'm happy to explain that, and I'm also going to let our attorney expand on what I'm going to say. But basically, this was sent back to us and deemed a type 1 action, and therefore we had to engage PW Grosser, as you well know, to do the seeker determination. That entity was not able to get all the information in hand to be able to do the determination, and therefore we are not legally able to proceed without that specific document. And I'll turn it over to Rich Whalen, our attorney, who can speak a little bit further on that matter.
As I think you know, the town environmental consultant and the engineer both submitted memos on Friday, that was March 6th, which was the day after the hearing record closed. So we felt it best that the applicant had a chance to respond to those memos, see them and respond to them. So they were sent to Matt Sherman, and Matt Sherman turned around and did respond by his own letter back yesterday, replying to material that was in those 2 memos. But because obviously Mr. Sherman's information was not received, I think it was yesterday or this morning.
Yeah.
I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so, but that's not enough time for PW, that was not enough time for PW Grosser to complete the environmental assessment form. So obviously without the EAF, we can't have a substantive discussion. So that's the reason why the matter was adjourned to April.
Then I'll have just one more very brief comment and I'll let you go on with the rest of your agenda. I don't know, Mr. Whalen, I understand you are new. Mr. Hill's been around and I know the board members. My client actually has been going through this application for years. So I would respectfully request that somebody communicate to the Grosser firm, that please to review and complete what they need to complete so the board can make a decision on our client's application. I would hate to be back before you in April and find out it was adjourned to the May meeting. That is our request, and we thank the board for its time.
They do note, just so you know, PW Grosser is fully aware of the status of things right now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Excuse me, Julia.
Yes, Stella.
Being Glenn was able to ask a question, may I please ask one as well?
I'm going to say yes, Stella, but just keep it quick because we do have other things on the agenda.
Yeah, no, I'm very appreciative. My only question is why, if the hearing was closed, was Matt Sherman able to reply to some of the correspondence that came his way?
Rich, can you explain that as well?
Because the planning board's consultants they submitted memos that came in after the hearing closed. The hearing record closed on March 5th, and the memos that were received from the environmental and engineering consultant came in on Friday, March 6th. So I think it was Friday,
Friday, yeah.
March 6th. So for that reason, we deemed it appropriate to allow the applicant, which could otherwise claim that they were prejudiced by the late receipt of those memos, we deemed it appropriate to let the applicant reply and make their own comment on those memos.
So those of us who are opposing it are not being prejudiced at all.
Well, have you seen the memos?
Yes, we just saw them. Thank you.
There's really, I mean, I'm obviously new to this, but I did watch last month's, meeting, and I've seen the recent correspondence. There's really nothing really new in my judgment. There were a couple of things though that were raised. It was prudent to allow the applicant to at least comment on.
All right, thank you. And thank you for taking the question.
Thank you, so. Okay, I'm going to get back to the two resolutions that we're doing extension requests for Elliott Bousman. So for this one, basically, I think, Richard, you prepared these and we're giving them a
90 days.
90 days extension. So basically, under the circumstances that this is something that is excusable, and so we're giving them 90 days. I did note that there's a typo on there. I think there's an artifact from the original document. It says 60, but then it says 90 next to it.
Oh, really?
So if you want to we can, since this is a draft version, I just caught that as
Where in?
it's on the second page of the Elliott Bousman lot line. You just look at the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph down. It says,
Yeah, I see it.
you see it there? Okay. So basically, the planning board resolves as follows, that we're exercising its power pursuant to 111-43 of the town code to grant the applicant a time extension of 90 days. So they have now until June 9th, 2025, in which to meet the conditions set forth. And basically, they're just waiting on the final maps.
I might just comment on this, on both of these extensions of time.
Yeah.
The applicants have to submit, I guess from my review, the deeds that will transfer title to the property where the adjustment is occurring. They have to show us that they have health department approval, because even a lot line modification requires approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. And then finally, they're going to, once there's a signed map, they met the other conditions, they will then file that map with the Suffolk County clerk in the miscellaneous maps category. So I think on one of these two, actually, I think I saw someplace that deeds have been submitted. I haven't seen them yet, but I'll have to read them. So that's why the delay there. They're still producing deeds.
I believe that's the second one. That's the R&B.
Maybe that's.
Yeah. So for this one, I basically need someone to make a motion to approve this extension.
Make a motion to extend the Bosman by 90 days.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I will sign those at the end of the meeting for Jessica. All right, second one is again, similar case. We're going to do it's the Radigan, Rick Radigan extension. Sorry, for a lot line adjustment. Did you want to add anything about this, Rich, or you're?
Pretty much the same kinds of requirements.
Almost the same thing.
I haven't seen the deeds yet, and then they
Yeah.
record the deeds.
Mhm.
At that point, lot line modification will complete. They do need health department approval on that as well.
And then, Rick, I did catch the same error. You have
Okay, all
on
right.
4th paragraph down.
That's because I originally had it at 60.
That's fine. So there's a 60, 90 discrepancy, but we'll fix that. So basically, with this consideration, the planning board resolves as follows, that we're exercising its power pursuant to 111-43 again of the town code to grant the applicant time extension of 90 days, and they have until June 9th, 2025, in which to meet the conditions set forth from the board's approval dated June 11th, 2024. So I need someone to make a motion on the R&B of Shelter Island LLC, lot line adjustment extension.
I'll make a motion to extend.
Thank you, Matt. Second?
Second.
Sean, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, so that concludes our business meeting. And now we're going to go into our work session. Obviously, the first two agenda items on the work session we just did, those were the extensions that we just voted on and approved. For Borough Hall LLC, and for our new members, these are applications that they have extensions, and the applicant still has ample time in order to submit something. So we're just waiting on recorded deeds. In this case, they have until April 8th, well within the time yet. That's next month. DeFau and Shearer, also a lot line adjustment, and we're waiting on deeds for those, and that applicant has until June 10th, 2025. Under our subdivision applications, we just did the extension for the Bloom family at the last meeting. So that is now extended to August 11th. Second, under our subdivision applications, we have West Neck Creek Cottages LLC. We're just waiting on their next steps application. And they have, like the previous one, they have until April 8th, 2025. If they're going to ask for more time, certainly they can ask for that. Number 3 is our Fowler Trust major subdivision. So board members, as you saw, Jessica, that just got submitted this morning, I believe, Jessica, right? So those came in this morning. At the time they came in, we had only the hard copies. We have now received the digital copies. Jessica has them here for you. I have mine over here. So we'll take a look at that. That will be for the next meeting, which is April 8th. Since they just came in today, we're not in a position to discuss it. We haven't even looked at it yet. Crescent Beach LLC minor subdivision. The original 4 members were all familiar with that one. That applicant has now submitted new plans. I know, Joe, you got that. You probably didn't do the memo yet because the applicant asked for, so the applicant asked us to adjourn this to the April meeting because they were not going to be able to be present on the call tonight, either them or their attorney. So they asked us to postpone it to April 8th. So you have a little bit more time, but everyone should be taking a look at that for next meeting. I'm going to just skip to number 6, which is the white performance bond. I spoke with Amber Brock Williams again about this, and until the town board takes further action, we're just going to keep it on the agenda, just on the radar. And this has to do with the maintenance bond. So I can't take it off the agenda technically yet, but it's still there. It's getting close.
It's been on there for
The
a long
property
time.
it's a lovely property, and the sign's up, and it's all, you can walk it. It's beautiful. We own it.
Been on there for 35 years.
Yeah. Okay, so the one that we can talk about, which is great, which is the Row minor subdivision. And Joe's here tonight, our engineer, and we got the memo that you sent around to us. So that everyone can, do you have, Greg, you have the Row subdivision, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Joe, can you walk us through the memo? I have a lot of interesting notes on this one things you pointed out, so I'd love to hear further about it.
This is a proposal to subdivide a 5-acre parcel. It's improved for the single-family residence.
Wait, Joe, I'm just curious, can you hear him? Can the public hear it? Is it coming in okay? Because the planning board has expanded, we sat our attorney and our engineer over at another side table. You think it's okay for, like, audio? Yeah? Okay, all right.
Maybe
Sorry, I
somebody in
didn't
the
mean to
audience,
interrupt you. I
maybe
just-
the audience can tell us. They can hear.
Can someone from the audience just confirm that you can hear Joe talking?
We can hear him. He's just a little quiet, but we can hear him.
Okay, great, thank you.
Speak up,
Joe, go ahead. Come on, Joe, amplify.
Do you want me to stand at the podium?
Yeah, it might be,
Yeah,
but
maybe stand at the podium, if you don't mind. Thank you.
yeah, there's a microphone there, I think. It projects
I don't
above
think
it.
he'd be on
Like above
camera.
it from you. Yeah. That's camera. We want to see Joe. Ratings go up when Joe's on camera. It's the way it works.
Wouldn't think so. So anyway, this is a subdivision of a 5-acre parcel into 2 lots, and there's a park area. Park area meets the requirement, 10%. Site's improved with a 2.5-story house, garage, swimming pool, patios, decks, asphalt drive, with typical improvement. Now, Lot 2 has frontage on West Neck Creek. And there are tidal wetlands associated with it, so the subdivision is going to have to, the applicant will have to get a tidal wetland permit. Move further along. Let's see, according to the town GIS, the existing garage contains an apartment. Now, I called building inspector and spoke with him about that. He said it was approved for accessory sleeping quarters. If there's cooking facilities in there, then it's not legal. It's not what it was approved for. So some additional information is going to be needed on that garage. While we're on the garage has an overhang, meaning western side. It's a 10-foot overhang, so it's part of the structure. And the setbacks would be 20 feet in the zone. They're only providing 18.9 feet, so the lot line has to be adjusted just a little bit in order to get the proper setback. Now, the property is not really on Westmoreland Drive. It's on the 20-foot wide right-of-way, private right-of-way that extends from Westmoreland Drive. And we would suggest that the project sponsor, as representative, provide either a deed, some kind of covenant that says that they can use Westmoreland Drive, and they can create a new lot that's off of Westmoreland Drive. Lot 1 has 153 feet of frontage on this private right-of-way. Lot 2 only has 20 feet of frontage. And it's unclear if Lot 2 would qualify as a flag lot. And again, the building inspector had some questions about that, so it's possible we'll need an interpretation from the building inspector of whether just having 20 feet of frontage when you're supposed to have 140 feet of frontage is acceptable. If not, then as part of this subdivision process, they'll have to go get the variance. This private drive is improved with a paved roadway that varies in width from about 14 feet to 18 feet. Current condition, the road does not meet the requirements for fire apparatus access roads specified in Appendix D of the New York State Fire Code. It's unclear if the planning board can approve additional lots on a roadway that does not comply with fire code requirements. And the proposed park area has an area of 21,829 square feet, which is 10% of the overall parcel. Future ownership of the park is not noted or provided. The park is landlocked and does not have frontage on any private right-of-way or road. There is an existing wood rail wire fence that encroaches from proposed lot 2 into proposed lot 1. That fence, should the subdivision be approved, would have to be relocated along the property line and not go into proposed lot 1. There's also an existing gravel drive that extends from the garage across lot 1 into the neighboring parcel, which is the Westmoreland Farm, Inc. and County of Suffolk. And there's some minor mapping items. The proposed lot lines are shown as dashed lines. The solid lines should be provided. Concrete monuments, it should be said at all changes of direction along the exterior boundary of the subdivision. Several distances along the perimeter of the proposed lots and park area are missing. Aerial photography of the site shows the southwesterly portion being wooded. The limit of woodland should be shown on the map. Tidal wetland setbacks should also be shown on proposed lot 2. On lot 2, because of how it's improved, I would recommend that calculation for lot coverage for structures and all impervious surfaces be included on the map so that any future owner of lot 2 is aware of
Limitations.
what additional coverage could take place. That's about it.
So Joe, I noted that too, like when I was looking at this, I thought it odd that the park area is kind of wedged all the way up in the corner there. It's almost like I'm used to seeing ones where it's more in like a common area where all the lots can kind of share it in some sense. And I mean, it can be here, but it just seems a little strange to me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, technically, both lot 1 and lot 2 have frontage on the park.
I see it, yeah.
So the lots, the park can be utilized by the lots in the subdivision.
Which is all that's required, right?
Yeah.
So where's the 20-foot exposure to between lot 1 and lot 2 that you mentioned? Which one? No, not the 20 feet. I don't understand that. There was the actual
That's for the right of way.
right of way. Yeah. Could you point that out to me? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Oh, that part.
There's 20 feet right here.
Oh, okay.
So this is a driveway that comes down and serves a house on this lot. This is part of that 20-foot wide private right-of-way that comes through here, goes, and it ends at that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So, and like I said, there are 9 lots in there, 7 of them are already approved.
Yes.
There a question of what's the access point for lot 1?
Well, that's up in here.
Yeah.
Is that a public road or this is the private right of way?
That's all
all
private.
Yeah,
And again, this roadway is only between 14 and 18 feet wide. There's also trees that overhang the roadway, and
Yeah, there's
some fences in there.
I've been down there, there's the,
It is not safe.
you can't bring fire
No,
equipment.
we never get in. We never get in.
So that's a question.
Yeah. It's a challenge. Okay.
Is there accessibility at this point, or does it have to go around? Well, see, this is the
You
private.
can ask, Greg, ask Joe if you have
Yeah.
a question.
So,
Jump right in.
so Joe, this is a private road up in the north perimeter,
Yes,
northeast perimeter.
that's correct.
That's the one that's not big enough, so again, it's not wide enough for,
None of them are wide enough.
yeah.
It's part of the problem.
and that's technically the land of Maureen Russo, the
Yeah.
private road.
So it's a little,
So any improvement to the road would be their responsibility.
Right of way that shows the road.
Well, this is.
It's all private road.
So like the Silver Beach Association, that little, so we all over.
This is their-
That's one.
Airstrip, there's that little private road that comes off of like down in Westmoreland Farmers, it comes down and it services like several houses. There's a lot of houses. And they're not all row family, they're others coming, but the road is really very narrow.
comes down like that.
Very narrow.
Yeah.
When you get it this morning, this is a
I
private.
think if they catch on fire, they're going out, right? But it's what's, is the reality of it.
Anyway, I think there was some.
It's all pre-code.
items I need-
Just to keep the chatter off the mic, because it's hard. Go ahead.
I don't recommend sketch plan approval at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, bottom line,
Additional information is needed. The applicant should respond to move forward at that point.
I agree with that too. So shall we put together a email to the applicant and we'll put in your, what you laid out here for us in terms of things that need to be addressed. I also noted them here. I have all them written down, summary. So we'll take care of that.
Madam Chairwoman, Louis, I have a couple comments I would like to.
Yes, sure, of course.
So first of all, as Joe noted, or first of all, I may have a couple questions for you. Who typically winds up owning park areas created in subdivisions? Who do they go to?
The lot owners usually.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually it varies. They either do an association or they do a trust that they're shared by the law.
So they do form property owners.
Sometimes, it depends upon, we've seen it different,
To shop around the town sometimes?
we've seen that too. It's varied based upon whether they want to have the overhead of an HOA or not, right? Yeah. You have more experience than all of us, so. Isn't that,
I think that's not common, but usually they do like a deed or something, or a trust, right?
Yeah.
Those are the ones I,
The ownership is split between the lots.
yeah, they do mutual covenants and,
So that they're basically easements on lots that make up the lot.
Who has fee title? Who's the owner?
Be divided by the lot, but
The two different park areas are part of your lots, not the park area.
I have a question. If we have a park requirement, for whom is the park intended to benefit, which is kind of the question. If it just benefits the two neighbors, splitting it, to me, that's not an asset to the community. That's just a de facto aggregation of the property back into private ownership and isn't really a park.
the reason,
but it does have stipulations, it
Yes.
can't be developed.
yeah.
But you can't put a house on it, but
But that's the goal. The goal is not to be a community thing.
Yeah,
That's
I
not the
mean,
goal.
I think you guys approved in the past where there's no public access.
Yeah.
It's at the back of the property or
That's not
something
the,
like
that's
that.
not the, that's
It's more
not the
a
goal.
general common good, I think. Yeah.
The idea is it's purely about development and coverage. And so it's all about keeping woodlands, keeping land, just not, yeah. But it's not specifically, the code is not to, the goal is not to create community parks.
so conservation.
Yes, it's more
It's just like
complicated.
comp plan, it's basically open space preservation, is where it originated from, this
You take
text.
part there, first of all. You can't compel dedication to the town. Private
Exactly.
property.
Correct.
So they can retain it, they can create a homeowners association. I just don't know what their practice is. If they want to dedicate it to the town or to Conic Land Trust or something, they can do that. But the important thing, it's a separate parcel of land.
Yes.
It shouldn't just be part, if it's owned by the neighbor who owns the lot who does the subdivision, then you don't really have a park area because the neighbor is just gonna use it with their lot. That's my point. And Joe's point is, because it's a separate parcel, it needs to have access. Because a third party is gonna own that someday, how do they get to it? There's no access, right?
Generally, there has to be access from each of the lots, is what we've generally,
But there's gotta be access to get to it from the outside world. Otherwise, you have to trespass in somebody's property to get to the property. So that's one thing that's not shown here. I mean, they could provide an easement.
I think we said, though, that hasn't been the practice.
Yes.
There's been parkland at the very back of lots that,
as long as it,
Never create a landlocked parcel.
but the model for specifically for the park area is accessible, the accessibility rule has been accessible by the lots that are being divided, not accessible by public.
But if it's owned by a third party, even by a property owners association, they have to be able to get there without crossing over private property owner's property.
That is correct.
Now, you can do it by easement.
I think it's generally what
No,
we've
there
done.
has to be a way to get access to it.
I think we've done an easement in the past.
So then we have to include an easement. That's one.
Essentially.
They have to propose how we get access.
They have,
Yeah, they have to come back with some options.
yeah.
But if both lots have frontage on the park area,
Mhm. I see.
technically, they don't have to cross over. Someone who lives on lot 2 doesn't have to cross over lot 1 to get to the park, because lot 2 has frontage on that.
But he's talking about a third party.
But it's not gonna be owned by one of them alone. It shouldn't be. They can form a property owners association.
Yeah.
The property owners is a third entity. You could get into a situation someday where the two of them are fighting and practical access is coming over to somebody's property, and that person says, you can't use my land anymore. So, whatever happens, there should be access to that parcel. If it's gonna be an independent parcel that shows on the tax map, it's gotta have access to it.
So let's add that in.
The other comment I had, well, just two other quick things. One, in terms of the access easement, I'd like to see their access easement. As a general rule, though, if the property which is the subject of the subdivision, is served by the access easement. They don't have to worry about subdividing. That property is within the, it's already covered by the access easement. Access easements usually don't get into whether or not you subdivide, unless there's something unusual in the easement. It doesn't matter if it's being subdivided. The problem would only arise if they began to use other property that's beyond this, within the access easement. So if their easement is serving this lot, even if the lot gets divided, they still have a valid access easement to get to it. I know just the last comment will be, and obviously Joe brought this up too, but I've kind of seen this by people in the past, the business with the fire apparatus room. So I don't know the answer to that, but I would perceive that to be a major question.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
It is.
We've had it come up before, and
Yeah, it
we've
comes up all
actually
the
asked,
time, yeah.
that they approach the fire department, I
Yeah.
think, in some cases to get.
And those laws are changing all the time too.
I can tell you the road is not adequate. I know this road, it's not.
And the other question I had, could you repeat what the issue is with the 140-foot minimum
Frontage.
roadway frontage?
Yeah, every lot's supposed to have 140 feet.
And so what is the philosophy on not having that? Who decides it has to go for
Get a
variance?
variance.
And zoning board of appeals. Post subdivision. Or as part of the process, I think. As part of the process, excuse me. Before it be finalized.
Or they can revise and change their submission, but.
One other thing actually too, another technical thing. So at the northern part of the property, it's showing the actual road, that driveway that's, common driveway that comes in off Westmoreland Drive. That's a right of way from what Joe was saying. There's an easement, obviously, it's serving other properties as well. That should be shown. If that, is that right of way on part of the property? The road is a part of the property. The driveway is a part of the property.
But what is
They
the,
should show that if there's an easement there, right of way, which is an access easement,
Joe says,
it should be shown on the map.
so you're saying Joe is correct in that matter?
You actually asked for that to be shown.
Yes, for. He asked a question about it.
I questioned it, but I didn't ask for the easement to be shown on the map.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, those-
another,
they show it-
another mapping item.
They're showing it down here, they call it Westmoreland Drive, even though it's not actually Westmoreland Drive, it's a kind of driveway. But if the easement in question traverses part of this property, it should be shown on the survey.
And actually, we need proof of it actually being the address that it is. Right, that's what you're saying, Joe, it's really not, it's unknown whether it's really,
If you look at, on the town GIS,
yeah,
all of these lots, 37A
yeah.
through 837G, Westmoreland Drive.
that's how they get categorized.
So even though they're not technically, I guess the right of way does go up to Westmoreland Drive.
That's how they do it. That's how
It
they
goes
do it.
all the way out to the road, yeah,
Yeah, but that's the only, all the lots don't go out to that road.
that's true.
But they get the benefit of the right of way going out.
The common driveway, Westmoreland Drive is off to the northwest, side. The common
Yeah.
driveway is going to go off Westmoreland.
They do that a lot with flag lots or with extended right of ways on the island. Just the way they've done it in the past.
Just one other thing about the park. We've run into that issue of ownership many times. And one of the things is if people who are doing the subdivision don't want to own the property, but they're not interested in maintaining
They have to
it,
maintain it, I was just.
then what happens? And there have been plenty of times when these small parcels have been offered for dedication to the town or to the Nature Conservancy or to some other environmental agency like that, and they're not interested in it.
Yeah.
It's too small.
Yeah.
But towards that, it should, the park area should have frontage on that right of way, so that if it ever gets dedicated to the town or another third party, that there's access to it.
So how are you gentlemen feeling about the contributions from Rick and Joe, in regards to?
That's all good. I think,
I think it needs to be written up. We need to.
yeah, I think for the most part, we've captured all the, either the memo and the few notes. I think from here, we should write up a memo and send it back to them, say,
More clarity.
try again.
So I'll send that out tomorrow to Jess, and we'll just, you can take a
Review.
nice look at it, okay, for review.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Great. Did anyone else want to add anything on that, or?
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Okay, moving on, that was the last of our subdivision applications. So onto our wetland permit applications. Again, as we just explained before, and Rick was so kind to elaborate on the rationale for why we're adjourning the Cheekwood Avenue LLC till April 8th. Before Tim Hill goes, I'm going to let him go because after this, the reason I wanted Tim on the call also, obviously we have a new attorney in who's coming in, and I want to going, but I just want to thank Tim Hill for being our interim attorney and all the work that he did. He came in a kind of a little upheaval in the planning board, and he was his calming presence, I think, made everyone feel very good, and we appreciate your work with us, Tim. So we just wanted to publicly tell you that.
Yeah.
Maybe he's listening. He's in Florida right now, so. All right, Tim, thank you. All right. Okay, so next, we have our next wetland permit, which, well, actually, we have a wetlands permit and a site plan review for the same entity, which is South Ferry. And I had assigned some of the planning board members different parts of that. We had gone to a preliminary conference in February with the building department, the town attorneys, the applicant, and we sort of divvied up the analysis on the site plan review. So I'm assuming you all came with your parts, and then we also have, actually we have, so Cliff's not here, right, but you're here for Cliff, Clark?
And Cliff's on the phone.
Cliff's online, okay, great. Maybe I'll let Scott speak first just about the application a little bit. Scott, do you want to come up and say anything, or?
I don't know.
I mean, unless Cliff wants to do it.
That's all right. I don't know if you're like.
No, just if, just as you're probably doing for the town board, or just if you wanted to, state anything about the application, we invited you, obviously, because we're advisory on this to the town board, so if there's anything you wanted to, note about the application and emphasize or anything. So,
I don't necessarily have anything to note or emphasize. I don't know if
Okay.
Cliff does. I'm just here to actually answer any questions if you had anywhere else, really.
Cliff?
Good evening. Yeah, Scott is technically involved in this up to his ears, and there's nothing to add. It's a simple thing that we've been working on for a while to put a 20-foot extension coming out the back of our office building to accommodate the growth. The building was built in 1987, and our staff and our traffic and our employment numbers have increased more than doubled, and we just have outgrown the space by quite a bit. And so this is just a step in the journey toward us. Hopefully on April 7th, we would like to be able to get approval to start moving forward on it. And we can answer any questions. There's nothing about it that's unusual. Back in '87, we went way beyond the DEC and town requirements to mitigate runoff. And that's, of course, always in somebody's mind, but that's in our minds as much as anyone, because we clam in those waters, and my children and grandchildren swim in those waters, and that's what keeps Shelter Island special, is keeping the waters safe. Anybody have any questions about it?
So I think I had some questions specifically because I was writing about lighting and pavement, what the plans are. So my question wasn't 100% clear what is the plan for it to stay like semi-permeable gravel. There's no plan to paving.
We weren't required to do that back in '87, but we did that to allow the rainwater to soak in rather than to run off. And we built berms over by the wetlands, and we have the road sculpted to where it runs off into riprap to the west side of the road at the parking area to capture anything that might run into the wetlands. And so that was all part of our expectation of ourselves back in '87.
And,
And to add to that, on the east side of the building,
yes,
now have lawn, and we're gonna be planting seagrass there, so that entire yard will be planted with seagrass also to help get any runoff.
the existing pavement that is on the, I guess, north side, right,
Yeah.
where you're planning on building, I take it that's going to be taken up? and
So
then-
that it's like the northeast side,
Exactly.
it's maybe like a
Not huge.
5x6 spot.
Yeah.
That also will be,
Moved and made into just gravel.
and it'll just be gravel.
Oh, cool.
Yes, sir.
That was my question. So it makes the gravel / pavement part of our response and very easy, because it's not my only other question is, it was around lighting, which I didn't see a lot of lighting, anything about really a lot about lighting in there.
Well, right now in the back, we have two lights underneath the, where the roof comes, and we also have a spotlight where entrance door is the back entrance. There's a large light above the northeast window. There's a window over there. There's a large light. But obviously all that stuff is gonna be removed when we build. With that being said, not sure what is on the plans, but
It'll be replaced the same way. It's just moving the end, sorry about that. It's just moving the end of the building 20 feet further, not even the full width of the building. And we'll just have similar security lights back there at night as we had before. And we've, at the request of the neighbors over in Shorewood, we set the lights up and adjusted them to their pleasure. And somebody commented about the lights were pointing more toward them.
And I would assume you're doing our code around lighting. But I was wondering with the driveway and the parking lot extending to the north, it's like, I'm wondering how dark I worry about it. I worry about it at night with workers going out to their cars. If it's completely black, it's like, it gets really dark here. Is there going to be like some form of lighting so as to help people?
of course.
Yeah. So
Well,
it'd be nice to have a little bit more definition of what that lighting would be and what your plans
I'd
are.
have to look into that from our perspective a little bit on that. I'm not going to commit to something exactly because I'm not a fan of extra lights because those lights are going to shine on somebody else. You have neighbors right to the north of that.
I understood.
Samaya Jamal lives there. And I'm not going to commit unless required by some code to do much more back there because that has not been a problem and it's all crew back there. I want to circle back to what you said about pavement that you want removed. There's no pavement there except a little apron that is at the edge of the road and onto the drive up. We're gonna lose that drive up. We're gonna replace it, but a little bit of an apron is helpful because driving straight off the road to an incline tends to make ruts. So we need a little bit of a ramp, if you will. But it won't be any more than square feet than is there now. But are you thinking it's something I'm missing?
Oh, no, it was.
But he's speaking of the blacktop from the parking lot into the breezeway to the pool room. Here we have a small patch of
I thought you were talking about off the road to get in.
No, I have no problem with that. That's obvious. Makes sense. So I think that's all I had around lighting and things. I mean, we have.
It's usually, like in the plan, there was a great deal of detail on the doors and the windows, and I guess like on other site plan review that we've done, we've usually seen like a lighting plan or the engineer or something, writes in something. So I guess just like to follow up what David said, just to make sure it's like dark skies lighting. You have the lights that kind of point down rather than
Yeah, we do that already.
Yeah.
And yes, we will commit to that exactly. But I'm not interested in committing to more lighting back there. But I don't think it's a safety issue at all. And we're safety first on these stuff, of course.
As far as the lighting goes, it's significantly lit as it is now.
Yeah,
So we're
we're going to move the lights to the north 20 feet. Basically, what's going to happen. We'll put it on the end of the building, but it'll just be 20 feet further north.
Makes sense. Yeah.
To your point, that'll actually throw more of a beam onto the parking area to the north as well. It'll throw 20 feet more actual light by virtue of the fact it's moving 20 feet toward that direction.
And the actual parking area is not expanding or growing in any way, right? The limits are going to, are staying.
At this point, at this point, we're gonna have to see how we're gonna handle that. That is, we're just gonna try to figure out how to do that. We don't
Yeah.
have any plans right now, and if we had to come back with something, we would certainly come before the board and run it past you, but we're gonna try to survive without adding a lot, or any, if we can do it. We just have to kind of see how it fleshes out a little bit.
And then the addition of the beach grass instead of just having the turf is, I think, a good choice. So the only thing I noted, and I actually heard already mentioned this to Cliff, that there's no vegetative plan. Again, on a site plan review, I'm used to seeing some kind of vegetative plan, even though I know it's one species and it's just one thing you're doing, it's a small area.
Sure.
But you know.
That is
take it up
on
with the town board later.
that is on the survey.
I saw the drawing, but usually there's like a little plan, like some kind of a write-up about that, or like how many, or then what's the arrangement of it or whatever. But I think that's a good choice, and I hope you'll keep it.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Yes, we will.
I think I only had one other one that was unrelated. We both saw.
So, oh, yes, okay, that's great.
Yeah, the other one I noticed was currently the new septic that's being built in is like 69 feet from the wetlands. Could you move it 6 more feet?
Because then you're.
Then you're only in the adjacent area versus in the wetlands, putting in new septic?
I would expect, we're going with an IA system, and I would expect that there's some engineering that could be done, excuse me, on that. The system we're putting in can be driven over, so it will be in the parking lot. Which direction you want to move it, toward the east?
It's
Yeah, I don't know if it's
close to
possible.
being out of the buffer.
It's actually moving north and east farther away from the wetlands than our current septic.
Oh, no, I understood, but you're going to be doing new excavation, right? And
Yes.
generally, we prefer, if you're going to do that you do it in the adjacent area versus in the actual wetlands. The wetlands currently at the code is 75 feet, and you're at 69.
You're so close.
So the question is it just by configuring this a little bit, so I would ask that you go back to whoever's designing your IA system and see if they can figure out how to move it 6 feet over and still get what they need.
Yeah, Scott, would you just get a hold of Paul Delander on that?
If that's possible.
I certainly support that, if that would be of any benefit, just to keep
Yeah.
within the lines.
Because it's so close, and I mean, I assumed that maybe the engineer had a reason for it, but since they never stated it, or I never saw it written, and we were both just curious, is like, it's so close, so it's only 6 feet, it's like my height, I mean, we might as well push it back.
Yeah. No,
If possible, that'd be great.
Scott's our director of building and grounds, and he'll take care of getting up with Paul Delander, or the engineer. And certainly if that move can be done.
Yeah, and it's certainly, the 75 feet versus 100 feet, we know it is what the
No,
code is. It would just make the life
Yeah.
easier for everybody.
If we
It
had
would
to
make the
fight for that,
wetlands part of the code
it was
easier.
mission essential, and we had to fight for that, we would push back, but I don't think it can be. I can't imagine why it would be, unless it moves it into another zone to the east. It's pretty tight.
Exactly, and that's what we weren't sure about. So just if you
Yeah.
guys could look at that, that'd be great.
Absolutely, happy to do that. Scott will take care of that.
And then while I still have you both here,
Mm-hmm.
Mark, you want to go over parking a little bit, that was your part, which is good.
Oh.
to say there.
So I was thrilled that you're putting in a public bathroom. The other ones that we have on this
No,
island.
we're not.
Oh, you're not?
No, we wanted to, but it required a massive expense through Board of Health for a
Oh, okay.
hugely
All right.
elaborate
All
septic
right, I
system.
was under that.
that we just could not justify.
Yeah, it's only for employees.
Excuse me?
It is only for employees, right? The bathroom.
In the building at this point, and we're not, we don't chase moms out with the kids that are about to pee their. excuse me. But yeah, we're generous with it, but it is intrusive, and our crews have to get off the boat sometimes, get in, do what they do, and get back on that same boat. So we can't have it too flow track. Well, I'm going to go before the town at some level. I don't know if you folks get in on this. I would offer some land, some parking area, and if the town could put something, would pay for putting something portable, like down at Crescent Beach, or something that could be rolled up there and rented for the summer. We could give up some of that west parking area to that. I would offer that land to the town. There should be some public bathrooms down there, and some of those, really nice on wheels two stall or two male, men and women's bathrooms are very nice inside. And we would offer the land at no cost to the town, and we would, just watch out for it. I'm not sure if you folks are where to start on that, but I'm just getting out there that we would be very happy to do something like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Did you want anything else about the parking lot? Just having,
No.
having adequate spaces for people to come in and
Yeah.
just a little concerned about it?
Well, I was just thinking, so you're gonna be able to access the building from that part?
Yeah. there's-
Anybody is, or just,
No, the public access is gonna be where it is now.
okay, all right, all
That
right,
area back there will be, it'll be handicapped, real handicapped access. They can come in that place, but that's basically gonna be
Okay,
as it
gotcha,
is now,
gotcha.
and it's gonna be office space back there and only for crew typically.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Matt, do you want to talk about,
I mean, it's a non-conforming building to begin with because when it was built, where it was built. And it is a necessity and it falls under the ferries part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we've never used the ferry zone thing, but we
Good.
do have that.
So I don't have any objection to it. It's necessary.
right? It's also mentioned in the comprehensive plan, it actually has its own section in the 94 plan where it talks extensively about the ferries and the statistics and, it's actually under a subsection called edge water water's edge in relation to other water bodies. And it just talks about the scenic vistas and how the building should look a certain way, basically from the shore and from the street, which it does. So it's good that the administrative building will, is not getting too big and it's going to have to kind of fit in the landscape of what's there right now. So
We built it to look like a house. That was our,
Like a house, yeah.
that was our plan. And we felt like the first building people see on Shelter Island should not look like an office building. And some
Actually
people think
doesn't.
it is a house.
No, it's very nice.
So in terms of the comprehensive plan, that was the part that I did. It basically met everything. And it's listed in the comp plan as a place of importance or, basically it's the ferry.
Well, the thing is, the ferry's an essential service.
Right,
We
right.
can't get food or go to the hospital without it, so
Right.
we want to make sure it functions.
And we'll never take advantage of that truth in any way if we can help it.
So I think that those were all the
I'm
parts.
sorry, I just missed the ADA access to the back of the building is for employees to have ADA access, is that?
So the
Yes.
back of the building, we're putting in a handicap accessible ramp.
Yep.
For handicap
Employees
employees and public.
and public.
Right, so if you need the wheelchair or just assistance to get in the building without going up the step, anyone can use that. But it's not our main form of entrance to
The front is already ADA compliant access to the front of the
Except
building.
it is in a way, except you still have a step to get up.
Still,
And so this eliminates that.
Gotcha.
It's good.
And there's not enough length down to the parking lot in the front of the building to put, to cover the distance of a higher rise step and running it down. It doesn't meet the right slope requirement.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's thank Scott. Did anyone else have anything? Are you, okay. So I took notes as each of you contributed your section, so I'll put that into a memo and I'll circulate it one more time just for, grammar, any minor edits, but it will include all the content for which you spoke.
It's great.
Julia, as far as timing on this, and I know you're running this concurrent on these two areas, which I really appreciate because we got caught up in that type 1, type 2
Right.
environmental thing. And that really hurt us financially as well as time-wise. And I really appreciate the fact that the town is moving it through concurrently. Are we still feeling good about meeting that April 7th meeting for us to get?
So I assured the town board that I have a deadline written down and that we would have a draft back tomorrow by close of business. So I'm gonna run this draft tomorrow morning to the other gentlemen on the board, just to make sure there's no minor edits. Then we're gonna send it off to them and they'll get our advisory memo on it. So they'll have it by Thursday.
I appreciate that. If there's anything that you need answered to, just Scott, you have Scott's cell phone number, just reach out to him. or me.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
So that's regarding the site plan review portion, right? Then there's the wetlands approval, which is subsequent,
Right.
correct?
Although there is overlap because again, it's the same construction, it's the same beach grass, it's the
The only-
same septic, so.
The only difference is that is for the site plan, I'm not sure about what they're, we need to get the answer back on the septic, if you're gonna move the septic or not, that'll have a impact on.
Well, we can put that in our advisory memo to the
Yes,
town board that they
exactly.
might want to follow up on that.
Perfect.
I'll get right on that.
That's perfect. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
Unless I'm missing something, I would suggest.
It
that-
needs to be 75, yeah.
Yeah,
The
goal is 75.
If I'm missing something, if it can't be moved for some code, that still shouldn't stop, is not gonna stop the planning board from moving it forward, but we will try, if it can be done physically can be done, we will do it. I promise you that.
Yeah.
But if it can't be done, I wouldn't want to hold it up for another month while we talk about why it couldn't be done.
I think the key, excuse me, would be, it would be our advice that it move to that, and then the town board, since we're advisory only, the town board can do what they want.
Okay, we can argue that, so to speak, before the.
It
town board.
goes to the town board decision.
I'm expecting it to be possible, but there may be something that was no
Yeah.
good I don't know about,
Yeah.
the east direction. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody taking.
Thank you.
this serious. Thank you, Scott.
Rich, anything on that or? Yeah, okay. All right,
Thank you.
next on our wetlands permit reviews, we had a new application that came in, sorry, which is Goodson, 14 Margaret's Drive. Again, just to let you know that the planning board, I think prior to when I was on the planning board, Marcus Kasich was here though, so this applicant has been before the planning board previously. So there are some old memos which Jessica felt would be helpful for the board members to see. Jessica, I think you're going to circulate those tomorrow, right? But you brought hard copies tonight, or? Just the, okay, but she'll get those to you, so you can kind of see what was discussed on this application previously. Although, you know, there could be a lot of changes now, it seems like there's a lot going on in this application, but I have to assign some of the board members to do site visit. And what's kind of nice is we have 7 members now, so I can send 3 people. So with that in mind, I'd like to have Marcus, since he's the senior member, and has a lot of experience with walking, you know, boots on the ground on these sites. And I'd like to send Sean and Greg, since you're new and, you know, it'd be fun to go.
Okay, good.
So just so you know, what we do is we usually contact the applicant prior, and I guess I'll have Marcus do that. And we just contact them and just let them know a date that we could like to go. We make sure it's okay with them. They don't have to be there, but.
Is that this?
We'll figure out a time between the 3 of us, and then we'll submit that to the owner of the, you know.
Valid.
Okay, great. So Marcus will contact the applicant and just let them know a tentative date that's good for all 3 of you. And if the applicant says, I mean, usually it's no problem, but we'll just like to courtesy check with them, and then you'll go to the site plan together. And then what we usually do is you gentlemen will come up with like a summary of your observations, and we incorporate that into the skeleton draft of our advisory memo. And we'll discuss it at the April meeting.
2 questions, if I may. Will they have the wetland boundaries marked on the property before we go?
It's just, you have it mapped.
They'll have it in.
Yeah, you just have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll use the
Is
memo.
it possible to do that this week, do you think?
Well, you guys get together, right? This week, I can't do it this week.
I'm away the next 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I've got a deadline.
I could assign, I could assign David, maybe if Dave was, I mean, the other
Yeah,
David.
this week would be hard for me, but we could figure out next week, but yeah.
Oh, you could do that too, right?
You can, I just assigned you guys.
He's
You
out
can
of
do
town.
it.
He's out of town.
Right, so maybe I'll take Greg off this one and anyone else wanna? Since I can't put it on David Kriegel because he's technically not here, I don't wanna matter on David.
That's exactly when you do it.
Could be like, guess what, you're doing that. So does it matter, David, you wanna accompany them or somebody wanna?
Yeah, I'll go.
I appreciate it.
Taxi?
I'm sorry, Julie, you said that
Yes.
the existing memos, if they've been,
Jessica's gonna pass them
if
around
they've been before the board, may answer some of the natural questions. Is
Well, it's a
it-
different application.
He was the one who was
We
here.
don't know what it was.
What it was.
It'll just give you some.
The previous application, they wanted to legalize stuff that was illegal. And how do you do that, you know, so it was kind of fishy. They had 2 different wetlands lines, and so I haven't seen this yet. I'm gonna open it up and see. what's
Yeah,
there.
okay.
It's a new-
That's some-
it's new
I
sweat.
don't know if we just wait for them to come before us, or like at some point we ask for a narrative, because there's a lot of natural questions that it says, for example, permit was rescinded, but we don't know, was it already built after it was rescinded? Was it half built? Like, things
That
like
comes out
that.
in the discussion. You can also always, just as you know, as a board member, you can always contact the building department. You can go there, you can request files, you can look at anything you want, you can ask questions. And you're, doing your evaluations. Okay, so that was that one. So again, South Ferry Inc., because it has a wetlands permit and a site plan review, I'm gonna circulate, basically, there's a lot of overlap in there, so I'm gonna
Huge amount,
circulate 2 memos. I may try to conflate them since the town board. And I think, is that it?
You want to reach out to David about the,
Well, I'm gonna sign it to Matt, just because David Kriegel's not here. I feel awkward just closing and running.
all right.
But I figure I'll get, but thank you for letting me know you.
Yeah.
If David sees this and raises his hand, I really, really want to do it, then he and Matt can argue about it.
It went.
All right, so I think that we've come to the end of the agenda for now. Does anyone have anything else they want to add, or if not, I need someone to make a
Next,
motion to.
April is the play, school play, Big Fish.
Oh, Big Fish,
April 2, 3,
yes,
4.
your brother's play, so. Go see Big Fish, my daughter's in it too, so.
Yep, right.
Rosie's in it also?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so I need someone to make a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting closed 8:07.